We need somebody that literally will take this country and make it great again.
Reviled by some, revered by others.
We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump!
Love him or hate him, there's never been a politician quite like him.
Strangest presidential announcement I've ever seen. And here comes celebrity apprentice Donald Trump down an escalator.
He is the first president in the nation's history to be indicted and has been charged with multiple criminal cases. But throughout it all, his most committed supporters have not wavered.
Was one of the people that stood in the line for, good gracious, I don't know how many hours, all day long in the hot sun or the pouring rain or the freezing cold, standing out there just waiting to go into the Trump rally to see President Trump and hear his speech.
We've been tracking a group that have placed themselves on the front lines of the MAGA movement. They're known as the Front Row Joes.
We'll gather 3, 4, actually we've been at the rally 6 days ahead of time because we want to be first in line.
And I've been traveling across America to meet them, from their homes to rallies to major political gatherings, to find out more about their beliefs and who these people are, and why they have given up so much for Donald J. Trump. Donald Trump has amassed what some consider a cult-like following, igniting a movement known as MAGA. Amongst the movement's supporters exists a group of people who hang on Trump's every word, attend multiple rallies, and have dedicated their lives to the MAGA cause. They're known as the Front Row Joes.
My name is Wendy. I'm part of the Front Row Joes. I've been following Trump rallies since 2015. I met up with the Front Row Joes probably 2017 or 2018, and been with them ever since. Meet up. I live in Pennsylvania.
What are the Front Row Joes?
So what we did, you just go out early and get in line so that you can get up front to see Trump at his events, at his rallies. Some of us we would just go early to get in line so we'd be able to get in there, and it just started that way.
What is it that leads you to travel all over the country and go to these rallies?
I just support Trump. Like, in my lifetime, I've never had a president who actually cared about the country, cared about the people of the country.
The Front Row Joes aim to attend every Trump rally, and they've been doing it for as long as Donald Trump has been rallying. They have been particularly active after 2020, traveling the country, often spending thousands, and campaigning to keep the former president in the spotlight. Some also engage in local politics. They help the Trump campaign set up events and work the phones during local elections, dedicating their time to getting Donald Trump back in the White House.
My first Trump rally was Texas last year. It was in the end of January, because it was the second rally of the year because he did Arizona. But what got me there, I blew up on TikTok and I made like a few $1,000s like that. And I just I'm wearing his name and I'm making this money. What can I do to get back? Because I felt like I'm wearing this and I'm making money. What can I do? So I flew to Texas and they got me right front row. My first Trump rally, I'm up front with all the Front Row Joes. I didn't even know these people, never even met them in person, besides when we were streaming out live. And I had that opportunity and I just haven't stopped.
President Donald J. Trump.
The size of Donald Trump's rallies have both wowed and caused concern.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes.
During the presidential debate, Kamala Harris claimed attendees often leave early due to exhaustion and boredom. But to the front row Joes, Trump's rallies are the lifeblood of the movement. For his second term, Trump has promised much of the same as the first time around. But the agenda would be a more aggressive deportation policy and a rolling back of women's rights, and even threats to imprison people who don't agree with him.
I do it for you, and that's what I'm doing it for. I do it for you.
I'm caught on the door.
My name's Rick Frasier. I'm from St. Mary's, Ohio. I am a Front Row Joe. The Front Row Joe started in 2015 in Winona, Minnesota, with a gentleman named Randall Toms. He was the original Front Row Joe. It was named that by Miss Wisconsin, Melissa Young. She came up with the name Front Row Joe and saw Randall at a rally and said, "You're a regular Front Row Joe," because he was always there in the front row. And say he was the original, and it just spawned from there. We actually met on the road. None of us knew each other initially, other than meeting on the road. So we'll gather 3, 4. Actually, we've been at the rally 6 days ahead of time because we want to be first in line. First in line gets you closer to the front row. Get there too late, you get a seat farther away. We like to see the president up front and close. We're Front Row Joes, obviously. And we're just a big family. Going there and watching the president, that's huge. But getting there 4, 5, 6 days ahead of time, that's us just sitting around, visiting, socializing. We go out to eat. And many times, we've been actually there helping set the rallies up. We promote Mr. Trump, we talk about him. And one thing we have 3, possibly 4 Front Row Joes or delegates to the convention.
A group of Trump superfans who literally want a front row seat to the action.
They call themselves the Front Row Joes.
The Front Row Joes have become famous. TV networks want them, movies have been made about them, and this group of self-proclaimed regular Joes have become mascots for Donald Trump's polarizing movement.
When Donald Trump announced in November, and we were at his home, that he was going to run for re-election for president, it made me feel quite good because in 2020, we worked really hard to get him elected. He didn't get into office at that point, so this is our time to come back, and we're going to work harder, or we're going to try to make it happen.
I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
The former president faced 94 charges against him and was found guilty for misusing campaign money by a court in New York.
Impeachment is the ultimate tool that Congress has to remove a president. Trump was first impeached in 2019 by Democrats for abuse of power. He was then impeached a second time in 2021 for incitement of an insurrection over his role in the Capitol riots. A Republican Senate acquitted Trump, but he remains the only president in U.S. history to be impeached twice. And now that he's been convicted in one of his criminal trials, the only U.S. president to be convicted of a felony.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
You know, we support him. Even if he goes to jail, we're supporting him, but there was no crime.
This isn't just about politics. Many of the Front Row Joes I've met have made their support for Donald Trump a key part of their identity. MAGA has become an American identity. They point to the positive impacts that Trump and the many people they've met through supporting him have had on their lives. But a lot of Americans see the Front Row Joes as supporters blind to the anti-democratic rhetoric and dehumanizing comments about migrants and other vulnerable populations. Memories of the most chaotic moments of Trump's first term in the White House lead to concern and real fear about what a second Trump presidency could mean for America and democracy.
There's just this denialism about Trump and the movement behind him, and where American politics was headed. As a political reporter, this to me was a strange thing to witness. It felt more like a rock concert. It felt like Lynyrd Skynyrd. And I mean, people were pre-gaming in the parking lot before going to a political event. I'm like, what? This is like college football? But what it did was it created this sense of community around it. This, you know, for a lot of the, especially white voters who felt very disenfranchised, they created this sense of community in that MAGA movement. And they're the ones that ultimately lifted him to the White House. His events always felt more cultural than political. And that, and again, that grouping, that the ability to put on a red hat, that everything's MAGA, it's a community. It does kind of feel like these old tent revivals in the 1920s and that style of populism.
Save America rally, okay? That's important to understand. This is a Save America rally, and that's what we're here to do. Right now, Trump is our leader. He's at the helm, okay? And he's calling the shots in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways he's not. The frontline doctors, the Nurse Freedom Network, people like that are out there. We're all out here fighting, and we're all going to keep fighting, and we, the people, are going to take this country back with or without President Trump.
Sausage on a bun.
Yes, sir. Is that it?
And do you have water, bottled water? It's our job to start the line. The Front Row Joes always start the line of all the thousands of people. And that's why I was the first one here. So the Front Row Joe was here first. I say to everybody, you know, we get on the phone, we coordinate and say when you're coming in and all that. And once we get everybody in, and once all my guys are here, I'm good. So now I can go home.
A lot of Trump is very instinctive. It's reading audiences. He kind of took that nationalism aspect of the Tea Party, kind of, you know, forget the fiscal conservatism stuff, but more of the secure the borders. He would say build the wall, and that is the MAGA movement. I mean, it's centered on nationalism and the populism aspect of it, nationalist populism.
Perhaps one of the most distinguishing aspects of Donald Trump's abilities is to attract a following from supporters so great that they define their identity and politics by him. He has ignited a dedication that has become social, cultural, and has had a deep impact on American politics.
Can you tell me why so many people that support Donald Trump love conspiracy theories, including yourself? He seems to attract lots of conspiracy theorists.
Well, let me tell you, you're a conspiracy theorist, and the left and the media spreads more conspiracy theories. We like the truth. We like supporting our Constitution, our freedoms, and America first. So,
what about Jewish space lasers? Tell us about Jewish space lasers.
No, why don't you go talk about Jewish space lasers?
I had never even been to a GOP meeting before until I walked into one of them, and said, "My name is Marjorie Taylor Greene and I'm running for Congress." Very much can relate to the Front Row Joes. I used to go to Trump rallies. Before I ever got into politics, I was one of the people that stood in the line for, good gracious, I don't know how many hours, all day long in the hot sun or the pouring rain or the freezing cold, standing out there just waiting to go into the Trump rally to see President Trump and hear his speech. So whenever I go to the rallies now with President Trump, I speak at the rallies as a surrogate for him, as a surrogate for the campaign, promoting the entire agenda, Agenda 47, that hopefully we'll be able to achieve starting in January of 2025. So when I walk on stage, it's the easiest thing in the world. I'm not even nervous because I know I'm talking to tens of thousands of Americans that are like-minded, just like me.
My daughter Kaylee passed away. She had issues with fentanyl. She'd gotten Xanax, which wasn't Xanax. She'd taken them. One or two hooked you. I don't know all the circumstances. Bad choices. Product being available, which it shouldn't be. I remember she, Dad, I'm an addict. Well, it didn't get that way overnight. And, bear with me. And, I tried to tell her, we'll get you fixed. We got her into rehab. She did the whole 30 days, got clean. I got her clean over there. My son called me and said, "Dad, she's gone." And that was 4 days after she got out of rehab. I called Brett, she's a good friend with the Trump campaign, and told her what happened. She died on November 30th. That back here, that framed letters from Mr. Trump. He sent me that the day after she died. So that says a lot. I mean, it won't bring her back, but it just shows that somebody cared. What else to do? As far as I'm concerned, he allows the fentanyl to come across that border to get votes. He won't close the border because he needs votes. And he knows the folks coming across that border, if they can vote, they're going to vote Democrat because he's allowing them to make their lives better in the United States. So it's tit for tat on that. But for the border to be open, all the fentanyl, the drugs come from China, shipped to Mexico. If the border was closed, my daughter would be alive.
Experts say that Donald Trump has falsely accused migrants for the surge in fentanyl deaths in the U.S. His opponents say that Trump's rhetoric resonates with people who have lost a loved one and feeds into his campaign. But as fentanyl, a synthetic opioid usually made from chemicals manufactured in China and put together in Mexico, became the principal cause of overdose deaths in recent years, the drug crisis was caught up in the border political battle about migration. Trump's supporters say that the border must close if the fentanyl crisis is to improve.
Take a look at what happened.
I'm driving to Butler, Pennsylvania. It's the city where former President Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt just a couple months prior. He's holding a campaign rally at the same venue this weekend. And I'm gonna meet up with a couple of pretty avid Trump supporters. I wanna get their opinions on how they think the election is shaping up so far, and what they think the future of America will look like if Donald Trump doesn't win a second term in the White House.
We just parked here to get away because we
we were parked up there and they wanted to clear the lot. So, and this is the building that the sniper shot off of the roof to kill the president. It's the tan one on the other side, I believe. I think that's where he had the ladder set up behind the tree. Went up there, and that's how Greg and those guys got over here, I believe, and watched him go up the ladder. Some of the people, the guy that owned this pizza place over here, he closed his business down and came over, and him and some folks, because he wasn't getting any business because everyone's here. So they come over, they're seeing the guy, they witnessed him climb the ladder with his backpack and was trying to make folks aware of it, but with no one, they couldn't get anyone's attention. They said that when they went that door here on the end, well, that's where the SWAT team, they were in there, not knowing the guy was on the roof, if I understand it correctly. So after the guy was shot on the roof, one of the guys that was standing over here said the police knocked on that door and the SWAT opened it and said, yeah, what's going on? The guy was already dead on the roof. I'm thinking now, he told me, and that makes sense, so just the one on this side of the big tree, so it would be the Brownwood, I'm thinking, and he must have been on the far side of it. And shot across there. But that's what I was thinking. That's where I saw the ladder, if I recall all the pictures right.
The MAGA movement and Donald Trump himself have connected with supporters on a deeply personal level.
I was standing there and we heard the shots, and then President Trump grabbed his ear and went down. And then there was a military, one on each side of the podium that I saw, but nobody's talking about. And then there was smoke on to the right of us. And then they rushed him off, and he put his fist up first. There was maybe 6 of us up there when we heard the gunshots. It sounded like fireworks. Somebody yelled out, a couple people yelled out, who effing is shooting the fireworks off? And then we seen Donald Trump put his hand on his ear and went down. Then that's when we realized it was gunshots.
On July 13th, if you believe in God, you only would have seen that flag in the air, and you knew what it was. There, you couldn't deny it. There was no denial, and I'm going, wow, this is the craziest thing. I heard butterfly, moth. I'm like, angel, angel. And then when President Trump got on there and I saw him go down, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It broke my heart. I fell to the ground, and this is the honest to God's truth. I cried for my country. I didn't cry for him. I cried for my country.
Amen.
Because I think he's the only one that can save it.
The Front Row Joes have shown up in large numbers. This is an important event for them.
Here today in Butler, Pennsylvania. This is the second time in less than a year. He was here in June. There was an assassination attempt, on his life. So as a Front Row Joe, we want to come here and support him. He's strong enough to come back after being shot in the ear and possibly shot the second time on one of his golf courses. And many of our members were in the front row the day that incident happened, like Mike. He was standing back here a second ago. Well, there's Mike. But he, those guys were right in the line of fire. So at that time, being a Front Row Joe, those guys, they're just going to come back and support him.
Yeah.
I think those guys would take a bullet for him. They almost did. So that's kind of what it is to be a Front Row Joe, and to do that, it's just, we just want Donald Trump, to be elected into office. His policies will make my life better, my children's life better, and my grandkids' lives better. So as a Front Row Joe, we're just working toward all of that. I mean, to come from that, to meet Trump and all that, and have him send me a Christmas card, even a Christmas card, a letter when my daughter dies. Who does that just for a normal guy? I'm just a Joe, just like all these other people. So I don't think I deserve that.
Right now, we're at a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's the same venue where a would-be assassin fired at Donald Trump while he was speaking just a couple months ago. On stage right now is Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance speaking ahead of Trump. And the crowd is really large. There are thousands of people here, quite loud. There are signs and shirts everywhere referencing the fact that Donald Trump survived the shooting, calling it an act of God, calling it a miracle, and saying that he's going to continue to fight on.
Beyond the excitement here in Pennsylvania, the rally does carry political significance. The state is shaping up to be one of the most critical battlegrounds in the election. Pennsylvania is a microcosm of the stark differences and divisions that exist in the United States. And whether Donald Trump wins or loses, it's likely that his legacy has changed the country and its politics forever.